It probably doesn't do this channel's growth a lot of good that while people are hyping up imminent directs or imminent catastrophe, my channel's standard take is that it isn't all that bad. I'll try and ferret out some source of impending horror or glee, but for now, I'm afraid this is another video where I want to address something that I have seen a lot from very respectable people in the commenting space and which I think is completely misrepresented. I want to talk about the 2017 precedent. I've seen a lot of comparisons being made between 2025 and 2017 in terms of Nintendo's release schedule, and not all of them appear favourable to the more modern year. 2017 was a banner year for Switch and set the stage and set expectations in so many ways. But as great as it was, if people are thinking that 2025 isn't measuring up, I have to say that I think those people are misrepresenting what 2017 was actually like in a fairly significant way. And to prove it, we're going to do a little time travelling and actually see how 2017 and 2025 compare. So let's rewind to 2017, and through some magic of time travel, we're going to run the two timelines concurrently, starting with the system releases, and see how things compare day by day. Obviously, it's a little different already because the Switch launched in March and Switch 2 in June, but let's go with it and see how the consoles compare day by day and month by month. Of course, we had Zelda Breath of the Wild on the 3rd of March. Absolutely a true AAA game, and more than that, one of the greatest games of all time, I would contend. Switch 2's alternative, Mario Kart World. Now, people may have differing opinions on Mario Kart World, but I think few would dare argue it's a title as absolutely hype as Zelda's first open-air outing. Mind you, unlike Breath of the Wild, it was a genuine Switch 2 exclusive. It's true that there were other launch games on both occasions. Switch had 1-2-Switch and Snipper Clips, while Switch 2 had Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour and the Nintendo Switch 2 editions of the two Hyrule of the Wild titles. Your mileage may vary on which is the better lineup, and I do love me some Snipper Clips, but I don't know there's necessarily that clear a winner of the smaller games here. I remember early on, time and again, people would start talking about the Switch being just a Zelda machine in 2017, and frankly, to me, that accusation always seemed preposterous, as that game alone was worth the cost of the system to me and the game. It's still one of the greatest titles of all time, and at the time, it was truly magical and still is to revisit. I also think it's the lack of one absolute behemoth title that is contributing to the different feel of the Switch and Switch 2 launch years. Nevertheless, here is actually where things start to diverge. On day 42 of the new console's life, Switch 2 saw the release of Donkey Kong Bonanza, and then we also had Jamboree TV on day 49. On day 56, or to put it into perspective, the equivalent of the 31st of July 2025, the Nintendo Switch saw a port of Mario Kart 8 in the form of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Now look, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe did sell gangbusters, but it's still a port, and in the early days of Switch, when a lot of early adopters were former Wii U owners, this still really mattered. It's not like there was even any major expansion to the core game, although the new competitive modes were welcomed, I'm sure, by some. For all the impact the game would go on to have on day one, it was a rather more muted affair. Now, you could quite reasonably say that Breath of the Wild makes up for all that. At the time, I think I had 120 hours in the game over the first less than a month, and several weeks in, I still don't have anywhere near that on Switch 2 in total, let alone in Mario Kart World or even Donkey Kong Bonanza. Granted, part of this is fluke that I had a big chunk of time to spend on Switch at launch, and summer 2025 has been incredibly busy personally, but as they say, there's a reason early Switch was being called just a Zelda machine, and it's that they were relying on that one game to carry them to a very large degree. The first new retail first-party game on the original Switch was ARMS on a day 105 of the Switch's life. That's like 18th of September 2025 for Switch 2. Imagine, just imagine if Nintendo had launched Switch 2 with a cross-gen title given us a port at the end of July, and we were waiting another month until late September for something new. If you think the internet is fuming now, this would be final world of a Mario game, Fire and Fury. And look, I love ARMS, but it's a relatively short and relatively niche title, hardly a banner waver for what a new console could be. Splatoon 2 came out on the equivalent of the 23rd of October 2025, 140 days or exactly 20 weeks into the Switch's life. Big game, sure, but following very soon after the original Splatoon, which was barely 2 years old at the time. By the 23rd of October, though, Switch 2 will already have released Pokemon Legends ZA, as well as a Kirby and the Forgotten Land Switch 2 edition, plus Drag and Drive, and doubtless something else in September. As I say, I fully expect to be filling our boots with something Mario-ish around this time. If we translate 2017 schedule to 2025's calendar, there's only one more title that releases this year at all, and it's a port. Yep, Pokken Tournaments releases on the equivalent this year of Christmas Day, 203 days into the system's life. Mario Odyssey, not until the end of January 2026. Xenoblade Chronicles 2, not until the beginning of March 2026. So, if Switch had started alongside the Switch 2, its 2025 would have given us Breath of the Wild 1-2 Switch, Snipperclips ARMS, Splatoon 2, and 2 ports. Switch 2, on the other hand, is giving us Mario Kart World, Donkey Kong Bonanza, Metroid Prime 4, Pokemon Legends ZA, a new Sakurai Kirby, several Nintendo Switch 2 editions, and almost certainly more as yet unannounced content, particularly for Mario. As amazing as Breath of the Wild was as an individual title, and I completely concede that this one exemplary title pretty much single-handedly outweighs anything else that you could put against it, so good is it. If you put aside the Zelda of it, the Switch 2 lineup is far more consistent, and more to the immediate point is certainly seeing games release at a faster pace than 2017. Yes, 2017 was an incredible lineup, but the idea that the pace of release isn't matching 2017 now is completely built on a fantasy of what 2017 was actually like. Now, sure, when the dust settles on 2025, I think it will be a devil of a job to rival 2017 for quality. Even if Bonanza edges out Odyssey and the various Plus games see off Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, does Prime 4 plus Legends ZA see off Breath of the Wild? I doubt it, but if there's a major Mario title before March 2026, then maybe, I guess. The thing is, it's arguable, and that's because the pace of releases is indeed really strong. And I haven't even touched on third-party support, which is much stronger for Switch 2 than its predecessor, even if it's a slower start than might be expected. Now, okay, you may see that some of these games aren't exclusive. It's absolutely true that if you take away non-Switch 2 exclusives, then the schedule looks a little weaker. But then Breath of the Wild was also cross-platform, and if you take that away, the Switch really does start to flounder. Granted, I should probably reference Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle in here somewhere, but 2 months into the Switch, Mario plus Rabbids had yet to be announced anyway, and so in these parallel timelines, we wouldn't know about this as of August 2025, if August 2025 was transplanted back into 2017. Isn't time travel fun? Switch had low expectations, like after the Wii U's slow early schedule and poor sales, Mariana Trench low. But there were plenty of people in 2017 talking about the lineup feeling underpowered. I have a hunch that even in Arlo's response to the January 2017 presentation, he felt it was a big game short. And regularly with directs and things, people were saying it feels a little bit not quite at the races. It feels like they're undercooking it. It feels like Nintendo are not going to pull off 2017, despite the fact we all knew that we were going to get a major Mario game and Splatoon 2. I think the gravitational pull of three absolute banner titles throughout the year, plus Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which was new to a lot of people who skipped Wii U, makes the memories of 2017 play a little different. But for many people, that year hit quite differently than the legends now suggest. I honestly put this down to the Zelda factor, but let's face it, even with a game as huge as that, people would be ready to mix in with something different and new after 3 months. And yet, if you owned a Wii U before, there was nothing significantly new to come for 3-month-old Switch owners. Irrespective of how you feel about the 2017-2025 wars, though, what should be an unambiguous source of joy is that I think Nintendo is very unlikely to have another 2018 where they had 5 ports in the space of 6 months in the form of Bayonetta 1 plus 2, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition, and Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, with the only major new first-party offerings in this time being Kirby Star Allies and Mario Tennis Aces, both of which required a good deal of post-launch support to make them the games we know today. Oh, and there was Labo, of course, if you really like cardboard. I mean, maybe they have no games and it's all going to go horribly wrong next year, but I would personally put it at 90% that there will be a lot more original retail titles than that in the first half of 2026. Thanks as ever for watching, and if you enjoyed the channel, please consider sharing it and perhaps even check out the Patreon. If not, though, I'm just so glad you're here, and I look forward to seeing you next time for another Nintendo Forecast.